This is April, and it's snowing. So you know that, that the weather out here is totally unpredictable, and so are some of the people. For instance, the surfing community here figures the best time to surf in Nova Scotia is February and March, for God's sakes. And one of the prime proponents of the surf scene here is Lesley Choyce, our own Nova Scotian Renaissance man, writer, university professor, musician, etc. And he and his band, the Surf Poets, have a brand new CD out called Long Lost Planet. We got a chance to talk to Lesley about surf poetry in general and life.
It's true, a drunk neighbor once peppered the door with birdshot, but the outhouse was empty. And the holes make great ventilation. And with the door closed, the sun projects a crazy constellation. You know, the only violence you ever see here is that chorus of mosquitoes who arrive at sundown looking for the blood of the distracted.
There was a time in this country when surf poetry was appreciated big time. And then it faded from existence, but now it's coming back. There's a lot of potential for surf poetry, and we want to kind of be there.
When we landed in LA, we rented a white car and drove to a Star Trek convention in San Diego. Klingons were everywhere.
I've been talking to you for years now, I think.
Decades.
Decades. Now, have you sensed a shift? Have you sensed more appreciation of what you're doing now than maybe 5 years ago, for instance?
Well, there's always an undercurrent there. You know, there's always people who sneak up to you on the street and slip little notes in your pocket, you know, and they just say, I like that song, I like that poem about Agricola Street because I live on Agricola Street, or my grandmother lived on Agricola Street a long time. I think there's a lot of personal connections there, and I like those personal connections. We're not mega anything. We're kind of micro. And it's really good to be in a micro world of surfing and poetry. But the interest hasn't gone away. There's always just the rumor mill out there, you know. What are the Lesley Choyce and the Surf Poets? What are they up to now?
And they all had wings, and no one fell into the sea. They just sailed around and around in big condor circles as if gravity hadn't been invented yet.
Why all this surf imagery out here on the East Coast? I mean, outside of the fact that you're a surfing guy, and we are talking about winter surfing, for instance, but I still never really thought that the East Coast would be, you know, would have any kind of surfing mentality at all.
We have an ocean, and where that ocean is, every time you look at that ocean, you think of waves, you think of surfing, and every time I look at the ocean, I think of poetry as part of it, too. The music of the waves, the sound of the whole thing. And it's just, it's an exciting place to be. He made small sacrifices like sifting sand, twilight indelible in my memory. Surf poetry is huge in Japan, huge. We have just begun to sort of fathom the possibilities of taking Lesley Choyce and the Surf Poets on the Japanese tour. I went over there, I talked to kids in schools, junior high schools, talked to a bunch of people that they had at a big party at the Canadian Embassy in Tokyo and stuff like that, and people there were fascinated by Nova Scotia. Surfing is monstrous in Japan, and I do think that language is not a barrier whatsoever, you know, because of that, that image in the brain of surfing is big there. Tokyo, most of the interest is around Tokyo. We haven't been able to go up to the North Island or beyond that yet. Showed my music videos to kids, mostly kids in schools. They're the only ones who had seen it, and they liked it very much. So I think there's a very attentive audience in Japan for it. That was my first little foray into the Asian continent with Nova Scotian surf poetry. People were running home from school to look up Nova Scotia on the map.
You shot a video while you were there?
I did, shot a video over there. This was the title track called Long Lost Planet. And it was a wonderful video. It was one of these almost kind of home movie kind of explorative things. Went out on a Sunday afternoon and caught some of the performance artists on the street, caught some of the guys dressed up in like 50s kind of greasers outfits with music blasting out all over the place. There were a bunch of Japanese girls dressed up as 1962 Southern California cheerleaders dancing to old Beach Boy songs. And I knew this was my kind of place. Did you see the light in the attic? The angels resting in the rafters? We were be there at the end. The trapdoor to heaven is just above your head. We kept trying to explain to people, would you like to be in a North American music video? And most of them just walked away. But sometimes, occasionally, we get people to be involved in it. But did a lot of exploring of that just very different kind of culture and really exotic interest shots that went along for it. I remember, though, having sort of a very bizarre kind of sad and lonely feeling. I got lost at rush hour in the Japanese subway underground there. And there were just thousands of people. It was like the tide coming in, sort of rushing against me, and I was the rock on the beach, or the rock in the stream. And people didn't look happy. They were headed toward their jobs, and I think that, I realized then, I felt very lost and lonely as the way you're supposed to be as a foreigner in that kind of culture. And then the tide went by, and I was standing there alone in the underground subway station, fearful that maybe this was an image of the future, that this is where we're all going. We're all going to live in these real crowded places, and we're all going to be rushing around doing what we're supposed to do, and hoping that that wouldn't happen. But then I thought, too, that somehow that might be connecting with why they're interested in those visual images that I took over of Nova Scotia, those poems about Nova Scotia, everything that I had to say about the place that I live, that we are the long-lost planet. We represent something here in Nova Scotia that's still pure and beautiful, and we got to hang on to it.
And in the meantime, if anybody needs to buy Long Lost Planet, where can they get it?
That's a good question. Long Lost Planet. Oh, here you go. Take your phone, pick it up, dial 1-800-NIMBUS-9, N-I-M-B-U-S 9, and if you have a Visa card, you can buy it. It's available from our distributor. Excellent. 1-800-NIMBUS-9, like the cloud, Nimbus. Emotion is the cradle of civilization. Follow the clues to the source. Guiding the fusion of the flow within the grain of the ancient art. Did you see the light in the attic? The angels resting in the rafters? All there at the beginning. We'll be there at the end. The trapdoor to heaven is just above your head. Radiance in his eyes, followed by the dreams of falcons. He made small sacrifices like sifting sand, twilight indelible in my memory. All the temples closing by midnight. My fingers were tapping the code to reunion. We walk in our own wilderness. Long raven black hair, an avalanche of obsidian. Sanity into the open doorway, like accidents of history. Never too late, in this life or the next. Accidents of history. What is the sound of generations lingering? What is the cure for pain stinging into death?
just feel whatever comes through.
All in one, you know.
I'd have to just feel.
Collect the sound of the infinite wings.
All at once and not at all.
All mistakes are forgiven.